See Vindicare again just keeping Acra on his toes with all these scouts. Acra has to decide whether he wants to stop the VP caps by... I mean, he already has a pretty solid VP lead here, but he's going to need to work to keep it as Vindicare is in his second tier now and having a lot more options to deal with the mid-threat. These scouts are pretty low, they need to get out of there. Looks like they're going to be alright. The Adrenal Gland Warrior Broods pushing in on that. Librarian also finding himself a bit too far off in the face of all those Tyranid warriors there. Vindicare, meanwhile, performing a quick extermination on the leftover tunnels on this part of the map. You can see again using his tactical marines more as a support unit in this game more than a frontline unit. Most of the time you see Space Marines using their attacks as their primary push force, but with this many scouts and his two melee commanders here, an excellent smite right into the middle of all of that. Those scouts possibly waiting for a grenade, but deciding to fall back. And we have a call-in on the Raveners Alpha. That's probably going to be a squad of Raveners right here, adding even more damage to this encounter. He's going to need to retreat immediately to get out of there. Librarian got a little beat up there, but he managed to get out there. Not too worse for the wear. Here comes a Burrow Strike. Those Tax and Scouts need to get out of there. Double Burrow Strike, one on each squad. Excellent move by Acra. He wasn't taking any chances on that. And it looks like Acra again has the map to himself. Pushing in on this power farm, finding no generators there for him to destroy. Vindicare content decided to drop a generator down in his secret power farm in the middle there.
Scouts here. Go ahead.
And these scouts have just been constantly capping. You can see at least two of the squads have been staying with the force commander. The third can either cap or escort the tax around to help them out with their grenade. Speaking of a grenade, oh, just missed the Ravener. He had quite a bit of HP. He probably would have been alright from that either way. And you can see Veil of Time on his tactical marines trying to just ignore the mid-army and push in on these generators. And yet another grenade going off, just grenades flying left and right here between the three squads. He can pretty much just be constantly dropping. Puts a lot of pressure on your opponent when there are that many scout sergeants around, because you really have to be watching for that energy bar drop and maneuvering your army accordingly. One wrong maneuver mid-battle can really make a difference around grenades. Now you can see nearing the good old mid-blob of doom here. We've got two upgraded Devour Raveners, we've got two Termagon Broods, and a Venom Brood as well, adding to all that range damage. And of course we have, just to mix it up a bit, we have Adrenal Gland Warrior Broods, adding just enough melee disruption to that pile to add another level of threat. That's really what this game is about, I feel. You never want just one threat for your opponent to deal with. You want at least a couple different things to keep your opponents micro busy. That's the advantage, again, to these scouts. Not just their damage, but here comes a grenade. You can see a second too late, loses a Ravener. Meanwhile, his Adrenal Gland Warriors were getting beat up by the Force Commander. That's the kind of maneuvers you really want to see. Don't drop those grenades right at the beginning of an encounter if you can help it. Wait till your opponent's distracted with this or that, and throw that grenade on when he has to choose what he wants to lose. Another grenade on that Ravener Brute, direct hit, followed by a smite on the Termagants, and really a lot of damage happening right there. Unfortunately, with the Ravener Alpha hero here, the Librarian and Scouts are going to have to fall back. The Force Commander and Scouts are going to have to fall back. Librarian already headed back to base by now. And again, the Scouts across the map, capping the point. Vindicare trying to keep these VPs from ticking out, trying to get some sort of advantage here. You can see he's brought in one squad and now a second squad of Devastator Marines. Really hoping that'll help him with some map control there. These Scouts very low. They are going to get out, but cutting it a little close there. Meanwhile, the Ravener Alpha running short on tunnels, having to slither around the map himself without the aid of his tunnel network.
100 points remaining.
Vindicare down to 100 points. He's really going to have to pull something together here to get this map control back. He's down by coming up on 300 victory points, so that's quite a deficit to pull back from. Hoping these two Devastators going for a low-power army. Here comes a Burrow Strike. I don't think... No, he did not. Acra did not see the second Devastator. A bit of an egregious error right here. Using both of those Ravener squads to Burrow Strike on one Devastator. He probably could have pushed this encounter back if he had used one on each, but was not expecting Vindicare to suddenly have two squads of Devastators. Tier 2 and late game suppression often not considered by many people. And VindicareX just assuming the best use of his limited power income right now would be to buy the two Devastators and really try to keep the Nid army under control. Two Devastators with the help of Veil of Time, of course, is pretty hard to keep both of those engaged. You can see, looks like the Adrenal Grand Warriors moving in on that. The special attack of the Force Commander just narrowly missing them. And the Burrow Strike with the Adrenal Grand still closing on the first Devastator. That's going to nullify all of the suppression. And the Scouts, Librarian needs to get out of there. Looks like the Scouts did manage to take down a Ravener Brood. Acra wasn't quite keeping an eye on that. He was focused on this side of the battle. That Force Commander teleports out in the nick of time. Gets out of there. These Scouts are going to be in a bit of trouble now, though. But they do manage to escape, and possibly with all four members of their squad. Excellent escape. Again, Vindicare not using his Tactical Marines as a frontline force, but using them as utility capturing and power bashing here. He did not need them in that engagement, so he figured, why not go and destroy some more power? You can see they're now upgraded with a fancy sergeant and his bright red helmet. Bit of a target decal there, if you ask me, but Space Marines do know no fear. Here comes another grenade by the Scouts. Not quite where he needed that to be. He needed to move that up just a little bit, but at that point it could have been in his retreat path with those Venom Broods. So, nade on retreat, not necessarily a bad idea.
Ready for duty.
Looking pretty good there. The injured Adrenal Gland Warrior Broods here moving in. Unfortunately caught out of position by that Devastator. And the second Devastator moving up, trying to lock down this center part of the ruins. But needs to be very careful with the Raveners still up here. And now a Lictor on the field as Acra has gone 2 of 3. Vindicare's been doing a pretty good job of gen bashing, but not quite keeping up with Acra's map control, which is of course very difficult against the Ravener Alpha. Another smite was fired off on these Termagants. The Lictor did have to move out under the focus attention of both the Librarian, Tacticals, and the Big Bad Force Commander himself. Pretty good play by Vindicare. Looks like he's going to be able to push off all of Acra's forces here, now activating the Force Commander's Battle Cry and getting that constant disruption and knockdown on the Ravener Broods. The Ravener himself is probably going to have to get out of here. He's going to go ahead and retreat, I'm assuming. I can't see his icon, of course, because of that pesky commander bug. After a commander dies, once his health site does disappear. Unfortunately, Scout goes down and trying to deal... Oh no, there's the Sergeant pulled by the flesh hook. This is the reverse side of the squad leader immunity here, is that, as you can see, this Scout Sergeant taking damage, his other brethren were fallen there, and manages to get out with just a sliver of HP left. About 12 HP left on that Sergeant. Had he taken another shot, that last Scout would have dropped. And Colin here, I guess a drop pod, expecting to lose some Scouts possibly, or maybe that was just an intimidation call trying to force a retreat there. It looks like none of these Scouts actually go down. Perhaps Vindicare was trying to convince Acra that he was going to drop some Terminators there, but all in all, a good play. It would have covered him if his scouts had dropped there. Vindicare's pretty low on resource, all things considered. We have a Tyranniform on the base, or on the victory point here. Scouts just standing in the middle. Oh no, one of his scout sergeants got sent to the back here. That is just not the position he wants to be in. Looks like he's not getting out of there. There he goes. That's one of Vindicare's 3 scout squads, his most senior one, unfortunately. That Tyrannid Spire right here, unfortunately, just knocked that scout squad exactly where Vindicare did not want it. And unfortunately, it had to retreat through the Tyrannid Swarm here in the center. Now you can see now a second Lictor being brought onto the field. Acra just completely in Tier 3, out-teching Vindicare. Vindicare has also gotten himself now in a squad of Assault Space Marines.
Scouts ready.
I fear nothing. Assault squad.
The Force Commander teleports in, activates his battle cry, going for some severe knockdown here. Unfortunately, not really getting much of that, but combine that with the Librarian and Assault Space Marines jumping in, and that was enough to deter Acra's Tyrannid Swarm here. Acra knows he doesn't necessarily need to be on the map right now, so no need to take losses. He's got Vindicare ticking down to his last few victory points, but Vindicare is doing a pretty good job of trying to bring this back here. He's going to need to be very careful at this point, though. With the Lictors and Raveners running around, it's going to be very difficult to keep control of the map. He does have his detectors, of course, on his 2 scout sergeants. But unfortunately, this is just a bit of an overwhelming Tyrannid force right now. You can see the Librarians scaring off a squad of Termagants, but again, as I said, the Lictor is just going to sneak by him, not even worry about engaging. All he needs to do at this point is capture some victory points briefly. Raveners are retreating, getting caught out of position by the Devastator in the back there. The Librarian possibly not being noticed by Vindicare in a bit of a jam. He needs to get out of there. Unfortunately, there he goes, falling to the combined forces of the Lictor and the Adrenal Gland Warrior Broods. Really a very difficult to deal with composition of this army right now. Between the Lictors and Warriors, and of course the range power of the Ravener, his Termagants and Raveners. Vindicare managing to hold on. This Force Commander is going to be in a bit of a trouble here. He's very powerful at this point, level 4, and just unable to keep up with all this damage being dished out by the Tyrannids. Vindicare is making a last-ditch effort with his scouts and a couple of his other squads to try to push in on these points here. He really needs to make this count now or never. Down to a mere 20 seconds before he needs to capture a victory point. As you know, if he's down to 6 points when the cap starts, that's just not going to be enough time to get that decap. An excellent merciless strike on the Tyrannids, but unfortunately the Assault Space Marines do fall. Space Marine knows no fear being triggered on the tactical squad, knocking those warriors to his back. But Vindicare knows when he's beaten and goes ahead and concedes there. You can see a nice warrior being thrown to the ground by those tactical Marines. But in the face of all that, they could not be victorious. That's it. A pretty good game. I love seeing the triple scout build by Vindicare. But Acra's Tyrannid army, obviously very difficult to deal with the Ravener on this level. He can really just control the map very well. And the Dauntless Force Commander was unfortunately unable to keep the map. Good play by both sides. That's the game. And this is Red-Rupee. Thanks for watching.